it open. He was playing Black-Red Zombies. Now he's playing another very good deck in Sneak and Show, Corbett Gray style. He's got himself 4 Sneak Attacks, 4 Show and Tells, Brainstorm Ponder, Force of Will, 4 Spell Pierce, 2 Misdirection, 2 Intuition, 1 Preordain, 4 Lotus Petals, and then 8 of the big guys, 4 Emrakuls and 4 Gristlebrands to go along with all his lands. The only lands that really stand out here are 3 Ancient Tombs and 2 City of Traders. And he's up against everyone's favorite deck, Rug Delver.
Yes, Alex Fann, who happens to be a fan of Rug Delver. Pun intended.
I see what you did.
Pretty standard list: Nimble Mongoose, Delver, and Tarmogoyf. He has 4 Stifles, which, you know, some people question whether or not you should play him. 1 Sylvan Library, 4 Force of Will, 4 Lightning Bolt. Nothing too out of the ordinary here. What actually has the advantage in this matchup, Cedric?
This matchup is actually pretty close. You know, it's Alex's job as the Rug Delver player to put a lot of pressure on the opponent while disrupting the opponent at the same time with Wastelands, with Stifles on their fetch lands, you know, stuff like that. Being able to, and he's already started off really well with Nimble Mongoose to be able to accomplish that. You know, put the pressure on the opponent so that those dazes are actually live. You know, those Force of Wills are going to be hard counters. He has to be quick, but the interesting thing here, and this is something that we saw last week, is when you're playing against Sneak and Show, you have to decide if you want to fight over their cantrips, like Brainstorm and Ponder and Preordain, or if you want to actually fight over their real cards, like Show and Tell and Sneak Attack. And that part's kind of hard, actually, to figure out, because if you just let all the cantrips resolve, then they're able to sculpt their hand so they can fight you over their counter magic. But if you counter their cantrips, then they're just like, all right, cast Sneak Attack, and you just go, I don't have anything, you win. So I actually don't know what spells you're supposed to counter, like how you're supposed to pick and choose, you know, which ones are more important than the others, because again, if you just let them Brainstorm and Preordain and Ponder a bunch, then when it's time to have that battle over Show and Tell, they're going to win it.
Yeah, this just seems like one of those matchups where whoever knows the matchup better is probably going to come out victorious. I think it's going to come down to like making the right decisions, being patient, knowing what to do, because these are obviously 2 popular decks in Modern. I'm sure if you play Legacy a lot, you've probably, and if you're a fan of one of these decks, you've probably played the matchup before, so you probably know what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to go for it, when you're not supposed to go for it. Doesn't look like Alex puts a lot of pressure on Will. Really probably wants a Delver, not Nimble Mongoose on turn 1. So
we're going to see a Brainstorm here, main phase from Alex, and you see Will. You know, Will, you can already tell he's fetched once. He searched for a basic. He has a Scalding Tarn. He also has a basic Mountain in his deck. So, you know, he's making so he's preventing himself from being wastelanded, which is important because you don't want to turn those on. Obviously, you know, it's going to make Nimble Mongoose, threshold for Nimble Mongoose a little bit easier to accomplish, stunt their growth. As you're going to see a City of Traders here, and now we're going to see Show and Tell here from Will.
he's going for it, and he's playing around Spell Pierce.
And the fun thing here when you're playing against this deck is, okay, so Show and Tell is scary enough to play against, because is my opponent just like playing this and bluffing? They don't have anything. Are they playing it and they actually do have something? As you're going to see a Daze here, while Alex does Float of Mana. And you're going to see a second Daze.
So he has the Stifle for the land.
And he has the Stifle for the land, yep.
So yeah, played this one well.
So you know, now he you know, led Will into all of this. He turned those Dazes on. You see a Force of Will on the Stifle. So now we're really fighting here. Is there another counterspell here from Alex?
All right, so it looks like it's going to resolve.
Stifle resolves. He's going to reach Show and Tell. That's not a good card to read.
Okay, so we know who's prepared for this matchup. It looks like City Traders has to die, right?
No, it's not. Whenever you play a land. Not when a land comes to play.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he's going to pay for the second Daze. And Alex says, I have something to put into play. Is my something better than your something?
Let's hope it's Jace the Mind Sculptor.
I know that it's not.
It's a volcanic island.
Hi.
Hey, slightly outclassed there.
Well, which one of those cards is more expensive than the other? I mean, Volcanic is worth more than Gristlebrand.
Cool story, bro.
I'm just telling. Wow.
That is true.
Wow.
So is Will going to draw 7 here?
He's just going to pass back for now. I don't think there's any reason
Doesn't
to draw
want
7.
Die to double bolt.
Yeah. No reason to turn that on as an out here. He can have Gristlebrand, stand tall.
Yeah, might as well just attack for 7, gain 7, draw 7.
Yeah.
Try to get some Force of Wills.
One attack from Gristlebrand is all it normally takes to beat the Rug Delver deck.
Yeah, and yeah, thing about Alex, he's got Force of Will, Daze, especially with the City of Traders, not the best counterspell. He's got 2 Spell Pierces. Spell Snare really doesn't do much. So, yeah, he doesn't really have that much permission. 4 Force of Will, 2 Spell Pierce. But again, Spell Pierce is conditional. He can play around those. So, he's pretty much all in on Force of Will to stop the show and tell.
Taking a look at Will's deck list right now as well, looking for things that actually can be Spell Snared, does not exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are no 2s in this deck. And so now we see Alex resolving another ponder here. You see Force of Will, Spell Pierce. That's an easy shuffle right now. None of those things are going to take care of the old Gristlebrand. And honestly, there's nothing in Alex's deck that can take care of a Gristlebrand in Game 1. The goal for him is to make sure it never hits play, make sure Show and Tell never does resolve. And obviously this game that didn't happen. This is going to look over City of Traders.
Yeah, and obviously Rug Delver is good against certain combo decks. But a deck like Show and Tell, they can generate enough mana where they can play around a lot of the counter spells where a deck like Storm probably can't. So we have Will attacking for 7, gaining 7, going up to 19, dropping Alex to 12. Alex decides not to draw. Or Will rather decides not to draw.
I mean, the thing is, he doesn't have a reason to move.
Yeah.
As you see a Tarmogoyf here, he doesn't have to do anything. I have a 7/7 lifelinker in play. You can't race that. And if I'm ever in danger, then I'll actually activate it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
One thing that obviously getting Gristlebrand to play is a huge deal. But one thing that people need to realize with Gristlebrand too is there's nothing that says you have to activate this card. It's a 7/7 lifelinking flyer.
Yeah, but it's so sweet.
It really is sweet.
I hate not activating it.
Yeah. Do you get extra match points if you activate? How many times you can activate it in a game and still win? Do you get 4 match points for a win then?
Great.
Yeah, as you see, Will Craddock up a game here with Sneak and Show against Rug Delver. This matchup, that game, it was actually, we had our back and forth counter war there, but this matchup is very, very close. It is very back and forth. This is the kind of deck that Rug Delver does want to play against, but it's not, it's not easy.
I don't know. It just seems like, he really needs a Delver Secrets on turn 1, I think, not Nimble Mongoose.
Yeah.
And again, only having Spell Pierce, and Spell Pierce can be conditional, Force of Will. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Obviously, Alice can draw a Force of Will, a Daze, and a Spell Pierce, which would probably shut down. But that's a lot of cards you need just to shut down one spell from Will. You know? So I don't know. I think if Will draws like a City of Traders or an Ancient Tomb, he can usually generate enough mana where he can cast the Show and Tell, and then Force of Will, Spell Pierce, or even Misdirection to force it through. So not sure if the Rug Delver is really at the advantage here, but it's interesting what happens after board.
You
Alex
see him sideboarding like crazy.
Yeah, Alex has Pyroblast. Another Spell Pierce. He has Flusterstorm, which would come in. Rough and Tumble.
No. Do you know what Rough Tumble does?
I do not know what that card is. I said it hoping that you would be like, I don't think he'd bring in Rough and Tumble.
I just gave you a flat no.
No.
It is a Pyroclasm for the ground, or it deals 6 damage to flying.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah, the old
split card, yep.
The answer is no.
No.
To the bench we go.
So it looks like just Pyroblast, Spell Pierce, Flusterstorm is probably coming in for, I'd assume, Lightning Bolt, and
those Spell Snares gotta move.
Yeah, the Spell Snare, Lightning Bolt probably. So what is Will gonna be doing?
Taking a look at Will, he's up a game here with Sneak and Show. Red Elemental Blast, probably gonna come in to fight some of these permission spells here from Alex. Defense Grid, also another way to turn off those permission spells. Echoing Truth, not a card that he's really going to need. Leyline of Sanctity, not for this matchup, more for your Hymn and Thoughtseize type decks. He does have 1 copy of Caracas. He also has 2 copies of Blood Moon. Blood Moon, something that we saw last week in SCG San Diego when Patrick Sullivan and I were doing coverage. We saw Jacob Corey cast that against Mark Lalagu, and what ended up happening is that he did cast it on turn 3. It did resolve, but Mark already had a Tarmogoyf in play, and then Jacob wasn't able to cobble together anything with his sneak attacks and show and tells to actually have it matter. So, he did actually cast the card, which is what he wanted to accomplish after sideboard, and then he died after he cast it. So, Blood Moon basically we felt was a trap as a sideboard card, and then it played out that way as well. Now, Jacob had 4, Will only has 2, but again, this is a card that is much better on the play because there is City of Traders, Ancient Tomb, there's also Lotus Petal. He has the potential to cast it on turn 1, but it's situationally good, right? Like if your opponent has a Delver Secret that's already flipped, maybe they already have a large Tarmogoyf, you cast your Blood Moon, yes, you're turning off all of Rug Delver's lands, but are you doing that in time? You know, do you have the time to take advantage of the fact that they can't cast any of their spells outside of Force of Will now?
But here's the thing. Is Alex going to tap out on turn 2 to play Tarmogoyf? If he doesn't have one of his 8 1-drops, and really if he doesn't have a Delver, on turn 1, it's Blood Moon's probably still going to be good, you know. And let's say even if Will just goes land, City Traders, Blood Moon, it's something that Alex probably has to fight over, especially if he has no creatures in play.
Sure.
Will can pay for Blood Moon, pay for days. So if Alex only has days, if Alex has a Force of Will, he's got to use a Force of Will on it, which is again something he can bait, forcing him to remove some of the permission from Alex's hand. So I still like the card a lot out of Will's deck.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily hate it, but you see those situations again where I feel like you only get the chance to play it in a certain correct situation. I think there's a small window of time where it's good, and then that window closes relatively quickly.
But Alex has no basic lands in his deck.
Agreed, 100%.
And if he's not able to brainstorm and ponder in turns 3, 4, 5, 6, that hurts his deck a lot. It makes it so he can't get Threshold for his Nimble Mongoose. He can't manipulate his deck. His deck is all about manipulation and filtering through lands so he can draw all those permission spells in order to give himself an advantage. So I don't know. I still think a turn 2 Blood Moon is still really good against Alex. But Alex has the perfect card. He's got turn 1 Delver, which is what he wants in this matchup. So interesting to see how it plays out.
As we see, Scalding Tarn here from Will. He's going to knock himself down to 19. Alex also has an Nimble Mongoose in his hand, among some other cards that we can't make out right away. Will deciding if he wants to get a basic or if he wants to get a Volcanic Island, but he's going to go with an island.
Good choice. Alex reveals a Stifle, which...
that's why you saw Will sack right away.
Yeah.
You see Delver flips into an Insectile Aberration. Alex plays a Wasteland, so now Will has to be super careful with what lands he plays because, again, he can't afford to have his mana stunted. Part of the reason he won the first game is because he was able to play a couple lands, play City of Traders, and be able to play around cards like Daze and Spell Pierce, and be able to actually win that fight.
Yeah, and that's huge here because, again, he has an answer to City of Traders, so an Ancient Tomb, which is a card that is pretty good in this matchup.
So now we're going to see Will play a basic Mountain. Okay, so good on the basic front, still dodging Wasteland. Alex is going to draw a card, going to come across again. We do know that he has Stifle in his hand. Will knows that as well from the Insectile Aberration reveal. You're going to see a Misty Rainforest here.
Yeah, so Alex's hand is pretty well suited for this matchup.
And you're going to see a Tarmogoyf leaving himself with just a Volcanic Island open.
Alex has a Pyroblast and a Force of Will and a Stifle to pitch to the Force of Will. So,
if you're Will, you feel like this. If you're Will, now the clock's on, the pressure's on now, and you feel like this might be an opportunity to pounce. With only 1 mana open as opposed to 3.
I mean, Tarmogoyf's a 1/2 right now, I believe. So, yes, the Delver is still doing damage, and but Will still has a turn, maybe 2, before he has to pull the trigger if he wants to try to draw a critical mass of permission spells to try to force through a Show and Tell. But again, you also don't want to Show and Tell in a macro and be low enough where they can just attack you anyway.
The other scary thing, too, is the longer he waits, the more draw step Alex gets to find some more of his permission.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's a difficult situation to know if he's supposed to pull the trigger, especially let's say that one of the cards that he plays is an Ancient Tomb, which actually he does play, so he has to take 2 to be able to do this.
If he has a Pyroblast and a Force of Will, I think he can probably get this to resolve.
Spell Pierce.
I don't think Alex has a Daze.
Force of Will. Force of Will back. Show and Tell taken care of.
He doesn't have the Pyroblast. Okay.
Now you're going to see Alex untap. Tarmogoyf grows immediately because of that. And we'll have one of the Tarmogoyf dies on the screen for you guys to let you know exactly how large it currently is. As you see, both players are counting now. We're going to see an attack here for at least 3. The instant land
So we see a
sorcery, so it's going to be a 3/4.
So Alex has a Daze and a Pyroblast in his hand. And
Will has a lot of cards in his hand now. 60 of them.
As we're all 60 cards in his hand.
So we're going to go over to game 3. Now that's exactly how it has to play out for Rug Delver. You know, and I agree with you that it does have to be a lot of the time Delver Secrets and not Nimble Mongoose, just because it's a 3/3. It's a 3 power guy. Immediately.
Yeah, and that's why I don't like this matchup for Rug Delver, because people, if you look at that game, you're like, oh yeah, Alex just dominated. But imagine if that Delver Secrets was a Nimble Mongoose, or if he didn't have a 1-drop. He probably doesn't play the Tarmogoyf on turn 2, and even if he does, it's a 1/2. He doesn't have any cantrips. He has all permission anyway. So Will probably had time to you know, try to set up that that show and tell. And the thing is that Alex has cards like Wasteland, yes, but if he's not casting Ponder and Force of Will, he doesn't have that many lands to naturally draw. You know, he needs to cast those cantrips to sort of make sure he's hitting his land drops. So even though he might have a hand of like Spell Pierce, Pyroblast, Force of Will, if he has to main phase a Ponder and he has a Wasteland in play and only Volcanic Island, you know, suddenly he can't even cast all the spells in his hand. So I still think Will just has an advantage here, especially now that he's on the play.
It's strange because I mean I agree with you, but again at the same time Rug Delver is capable of some of those really good draws that we saw in the last game, and it does again feel just really close to me. It's almost like it almost depends on what Rug Delver's draw is here, more than on what Will's draw is, which is kind of a strange thing to say. You know, let's say for example that Will actually draws, you know, maybe not that many fetch lands and draws, you know, a healthy amount of Ancient Tombs, Volcanic Islands, and draws that open himself up to Wasteland, you know, which we haven't seen yet.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's possible, but I think Will has enough basics to play around Wasteland for the early turns. Stifle is annoying, obviously, but if he's on the play, it's less of a factor. Again, I can see how it could be a close matchup, but in the end, I just think Will has greater inevitability, and you know, he has that on his side. So if Will's on the play and Alex's first turn is Ponder or just land pass, I think that's really good for Will. Like, and that's the thing. It's like if Alex doesn't go turn 1 Delver, I am ecstatic. If I'm Will.
Yeah. So we'll see. Osip is in the camp of Will Craddock. I'm kind of split. I think that Alex is going to be able to take this one. This is our first argument. Yeah. We're split on this one.
It's unbelievable.
I can't believe it finally happened. I think we agreed on most things that were going to happen in Standard, and we were right.
We were right all the time.
But now we have a dissension in the ranks. I think that Rug Delver is going to be able to take it down. Oh, for the record, by the way, for our Twitter followers at home, all of you great viewers watching on SCG Live, also, just so that you know, a lot of people do believe that my combo deck here with Orzhov Guildmage and Exquisite Blood, a lot of Twitter messages about how we can make this work, a lot of tutors, maybe it works with Extort. I just want you to know the gears are working at home. People are believers. So don't dismiss it just
Will you
yet.
tell your mom to stop texting you while you're working?
Look, my mom does not have this many phones. A lot of messages here. Good. My mom wants to know if Extort's good with it. Mom, it is good.
I don't care.
Thanks for asking. Mom, thanks for watching.
Your mom built your Kithkin deck once that was successful. That's it. That doesn't mean that every deck she builds is good.
She got her cut. All right.
Took her out to dinner.
Yeah, she got a nice dinner at Red Lobster.
Cedric, why don't you play those Kithkins?
That's not how she talks. That's not how she talks.
That's how every mother talks. All right, so here we go. Volcanic Island from Will, which is probably a good sign for Alex if he has a Wasteland. Will probably was hoping for a Sackland heavy draw.
Yeah.
Try to play around some of those Wastelands.
On the flip side, no turn 1 Delver, no turn 1 Nimble
Well,
Mongoose.
it was exactly the play I was talking about.
Yeah.
Turn 1 Ponder is probably a lot better for Will, right? So we'll see who's right.
It's scary,
You know,
right?
He's exposing himself to Wasteland,
Yeah.
but he didn't have a turn 1 drop, so we'll see what happens.
It's scary that, like, you know, your turn 1 Ponder, you're just like, yes, turn 1 Ponder, thank God.
Thank God.
Yeah,
that card is banned in certain formats.
Yeah, where you're fun to look at the top 3 cards, and I don't like these cards. Give me a fresh one, you're like, whoo, got by on that one. But that's how it feels right now compared to what can happen.
Let's just see a turn 2 show and tell right here. Let's just go for it. Let's just get there.
And Misty. Brainstorm?
Brainstorm.
Okay. See, there's interaction. I know you're new to Legacy. There's an interaction with Brainstorm and Fetchland.
Ah,
where
interesting.
You put the cards back and then you shuffle them away. So it's like you just drew 3 cards for free.
Yeah, very nice.
Pretty neat. My mom thought of that one too. Shouldn't get any credit for it.
Smart woman.
Thank you.
So we're probably gonna crack a fetch land here.
I think you got to crack right away, right?
Island.
Because of Stifle.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. We're gonna move down to 19 here.
I think Will is praying Alex just goes land Tarmogoyf.
Yeah.
Go. Ideal scenario for him. Doesn't want to see a Wasteland. Wasteland Delver is probably the worst case scenario.
I mean, even Wasteland, you know, Mongoose is even kind of
even
a pain
Wasteland,
right now.
yeah.
Just any guy plus a Wasteland here is it's pretty ugly. So Will's deck is good to go.
So let's see. Does Alex have it?
Alex draws a
He did
card.
Brainstorm. He did Ponder, but he shuffled off the Ponder.
Yeah.
He didn't. So somewhat random. Can't really make out what's in his hand.
Can't see it either.
He
All
does
right,
have the Wasteland.
step one.
So step 1. And does he have a 1-drop?
Oh,
Does not.
no 1-drop.
Has a Stifle and a Force of Will.
A lot of permission. Stifle's still scary here.
Stifle is definitely scary. Well,
Opens himself back up to Wasteland. Draws a card. Delver Secrets is the
Delver.
draw. Is it Tarmogoyf time? Do we
So-
just go with Delver? We just go with Delver.
Alex
Represented
has
a lot.
that permission-heavy hand that we were talking about. He's got Spell Pierce, Pyroblast, Force of Will. So Will's gonna need a Show and Tell. He really needed an Ancient Tomb there. I think
Some
he needed
sort
to
of
go
double
for it.
land?
Yeah. Well, thankfully Alex didn't hit with Delver, so
That means it's either a land or a creature.
I think it was a Tarmogoyf. Doubt Alex is going to play Tarmogoyf here. I've been wrong before.
And you will be wrong again.
It's strange that he decided to do that because he has Pyroblast and Spell Pierce in his hand. So I think that he would want to maybe try to... Because if Will has an Ancient Tomb here, he can play around the Spell Pierce, which means that Alex is going to be forced to Pyroblast to Show and Tell. So, well, he got lucky there. Will didn't have it.
You know, it's this
Maybe he just read him.
It's this situation, right? Like where you can sink the Tarmogoyf in now, and then you never have to tap your mana on your turn ever again. So do you want to take the risk of that? You know, jumping through that one window, Tarmogoyf comes in, and if I get to untap, I never have to tap out again.
No, but
I've got my clock.
Yeah, but the thing is, Delver is likely to flip next turn because just the way his deck is built. And if it doesn't, it's likely going to be a land, which means he'll get to 4 mana, then you play the Tarmogoyf, and then you still have access to Spell Pierce, Pyroblast, and Force of Will.
Okay.
So I still think it's a little aggressive, unless he just had a good read on Will, and he just said, I could tell that he probably doesn't have it based on the way these turns are playing out. So it really depends on the read that he had. But, you know, looking good for him. Will probably can't do anything this turn, and even if he tries it, he's got a Stifle for the sack lane. So looking good for Alex right now.
Ancient Tomb. So here's something that's kind of interesting, right? And this is something I was going to bring up, and I wish I had gotten to it in a minute. Let me see what this is going to defense
grid. Very nice.
And he's going to read that. We're going to bring it up for you guys as well. Legacy Rare here makes countering things a lot more difficult, so they're going to fight over this.
I'd like to point out, if he didn't cast a Tarmogoyf, he would have been able to Spell Pierce it and then Stifle the land. Just saying.
Just saying. So, let's say that Will doesn't play the Ancient Tomb yet, okay?
Yes.
And he sacrifices the Misty Rainforest. If you're Alex, do you stifle that? Because he hasn't played a land yet.
I think Alex probably would have stifled it.
Okay. If
But
you're Alex, do you stifle it?
No, I don't stifle it.
No, you just let it go?
Yeah.
Okay. Because then, you know, he comes with the double land, and we're going to see a Spell Pierce here, so we're fighting over this first card. And this, again, is what makes, you know, this Sneak and Show deck, is we're going to see a Spell Pierce here, so a lot of things in the stack. Will takes care of a Spell Pierce
So
and a
he's gotta
Force of
sack
Will
that, yeah, and he's got to sack that land. So Alex really only has a Pyroblast left to stop a Show and Tell, I believe.
Tarmogoyf gets a little bit bigger. You're going to see Will sacrifice this to shuffle away with the Brainstorm, also to dodge a Stifle.
Yeah, and it's really a shame that he went for the Tarmogoyf because, again, he could have stopped that whole sequence with just a Stifle and a Spell Snare. And he would have a Spell Pierce, and he would have still had the Force of Will and the Pyroblast. But again, that might be enough, because you'd imagine if Will had another piece of permission, maybe he would have used it to force through the defense grid. So
Delver reveals a daze.
Will's daze, which probably isn't going to do too much.
But now you see him coming across here for 7. He's going to knock Will down to 8, and you're going to see another Tarmogoyf. And I mean, he has to go for it now.
Yeah, he has to go for it. He has no choice.
And he's going to start with a Brainstorm, which is a card, obviously, Alex is not going to fight over. He's going to try to fight over the real cards. Dangerous always, because if Will does find permission with this, you know, a way to counter, Alex's permission, then he's okay. But, of course, you can't fight over the Brainstorm there.
Yeah, and the thing is, he also needs to show and tell a Grizzlebrand, I believe, because I think even in the macro, if he takes damage off the Ancient Tomb, I think Alex can still attack with all his creatures and do enough to kill Will, I believe, because the Ancient Tomb would drop him to 6.
Yep.
So I think he needs in a macro here, because the way the lifelink would work, he'd still be alive.
Now we have a Ponder. Will looks at the top 3 and immediately shuffles.
Wow, so all in.
I think this is a one-time dealer situation. You do see him keeping that mountain up as well. Might have a little red elemental blast.
Does he
at
have
the
Lotus
ready.
Petal?
4.
There's 4 Lotus Petals. So maybe
That does
sneak attack.
That does not look like a man that is happy with his draw. And that's
Wow.
it. We see a concession from Will.
Still had all these.
A daze and a red blast. Don't know if Will's going to put his hand face up or not. See if he have an idea of what he was going to have left. Don't know. Just looks like nothing.
All right. Well, you were right. Alex won the match.
I was right, wasn't I?
Yes. Everything worked out perfectly.
Say it again.
You were right, Cedric.
Can you run the tape back on that?
Rug Delver defeated Sneak and Show. Fantastic.
Matchup is super close, but I agree with the things that you're talking about with the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the matchup's close. I still thought Will, because he was on the play, had the advantage.
Yeah.
His draw must have been terrible, though. He pondered multiple times. He brainstormed, and he still wasn't able to find a show and tell or a sneak attack. So, and again, if he has a sneak attack there, the Pyroblast doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So, if he just had the sneak attack in his hand, there's nothing Alex could have done.
Well, the daze is live then.
No, but he had enough mana, though. I think
like at the very start.
At the very start, if he didn't have to dig for anything, if his last card was just sneak attack after the defense grid fight, if it was just sneak attack, he casts it, sneaks it in a macro, and he probably just wins the game.
Yeah.